Hey, what's going on guys? Six Paths here, back at it again in the range to once again yap about Sentinels. In today's video, I simply want to discuss who will be the Sentinels roster that is going to show up for Seattle Red Bull. Seattle Red Bull is a off-season VCT event. It's going to be the first off-season event for VCT that's going to be happening on the 29th of September. So literally 10 days from when I recorded this video. And the reason why I'm bringing up this topic is because Rob Moore, the CEO of Sentinels, he tweeted earlier today that he was asking the Sent fans to be enthusiastic, right? Continue to support the team because they're cooking in the background. There's going to be good news coming soon. Now, there was a fan that asked Rob Moore if there was going to be a roster announcement in time for Seattle Red Bull. And Rob Moore responded, and I quote, "If a player is currently on a VCT roster, you cannot make a roster move or announcement until 9:01 a.m. Pacific time on October 7th. So Red Bull Homeground is on September 29th, which is obviously a few days before October 7th. So what does that mean for Sentinels and who are they going to bring to participate in the event? Well, it's basically 99% confirmed that Zelsis, Zekin, and John QT are going to be on the roster for next season, or at the bare minimum are going to be at the Red Bull Homeground event. But it's highly likely that they're going to be on the roster next year. So who's going to be the other two substitution players? Because it's more than likely that the roster that does show up for Seattle Homeground is most likely just going to be a temporary roster. The reasons for that is because if the VCT handbook shows that they can't make any roster announcements from a player that's on a VCT team, that's going to eliminate a lot of options from players that Sentinels have been trialing recently. They've been trialing Narrate. There's been rumors of Jogamo from EG. And there's also another rumor of potentially Xander if somehow M80 gets eliminated from the Ascension tournament, which is another thing. The Ascension tournament is still ongoing. That doesn't end until the end of September. By then, Seattle Red Bull Homeground would already be happening. What are the possibilities for the two players that could sub in for a temporary roster for the Red Bull Homeground event? First guess would be Curry, who, as far as I'm concerned, is still going to be the sixth man for Sentinels. If he wasn't going to be the sixth man for Sentinels, that probably would have been announced by now. But highly likely Curry would fill in. I know he's been screaming with the team last season when John QT had visa issues, so I'm sure he can just fill in for this one event, and that wouldn't be a big deal. But in terms of besides Curry, that's when it becomes a lot harder to say. I mean, it would have to be, I assume, just a completely unsigned player who's not in Tier 2 or Tier 1. And I don't know off the top of my head too many unsigned players, but it would have to be just a complete substitute non-pro player that can fill in. But my first guess would be Curry, and my second guess, if I want to be optimistic, if I want to be Delulu, is either TenZ or Sacy come back for this one-time appearance just to put together a temporary roster for this one-off event. Now, if you guys don't know, Sentinels were announced for the Seattle Red Bull event. I want to say either during Champions or very shortly after Champions. You guys can fact check me on that. But they were announced to be showing up to the event way before Sacy and TenZ announced their either of them announced their retirement. So I'm sure Sentinels were expecting at least all five to come back, and obviously that's not the case. So now we have the situation where they need two subs for this event. So again, my first guess is Curry, and my second guess, if I'm being optimistic, maybe TenZ, because TenZ said he wouldn't mind coming back to the team as an emergency sub, and he's still signed to Sentinels, so maybe he could come back as a one-off. I would have been silly and said Tarek, but Tarek is announced as a co-streamer, broadcaster alongside Ludwig, so it can't be Tarek, right? But what do you guys think? You let me know, because off the top of my head, I genuinely can't name any players. And again, if the rulebook is showing that they can't announce any roster changes from any VCT players until October 7th, then that really eliminates a lot of options. Curry is obviously a very obvious guess, but the second one to fill in the spot for Sentinels is much harder to say. But I'm gonna be the Lulu and say TenZ. But that's the topic I want to bring up for you guys. In my last video, I mentioned that we'll be live in person watching the Seattle Red Bull event, so I'm very excited to watch that and see the boys in person again. I will be documenting it and speaking on my experiences, potentially vlogging for that, so look forward to that. And also look forward to the Sentinels organization making an announcement regarding the temporary roster in the upcoming days. I just thought it would have been fun to speculate on it before they officially do announce the roster. But otherwise, thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate the support. TenZ City Fancast coming very, very soon. So click the like, click the subscribe. I have a lot more videos cooking up here soon. But bye-bye and enjoy the rest of your day.